Hello and welcome to Mental Monday. This is the big friendly conversation about mental health with me, Jake Symons. Over the next half an hour, we're going to be having just that, a big friendly conversation about mental health. I'm so glad you could make it today. Thanks for joining me. If you're here for the first time, this is an unscripted conversation and we can discuss anything you want in the chat. As a mental health advocate, you can message me anytime, and if you want to talk to me through the show, I'm actively monitoring Twitter, Instagram, which is at JakeusWrites on Twitter and at Jake_Symons, both of which are linked in the description below. If you want to get in touch, you've obviously got the YouTube chat here as well. If you want to reach me outside, what you'll say is obviously confidential, and I can't offer any support. It's probably worth mentioning that. I am not a professional in any capacity. I don't profess to be. And if you need support, Samaritans are there at 116 123. And Childline if you're under 18 on 0800 11 11. As always, this is unscripted, so I've got a few bullet points and you may see me look into the screen to actually discuss those. But for the most part, the conversation's over to you. You can talk about what you want to in the chat, and we can just all have a bit of a conversation and a catch-up, see how the last 2 weeks have been, see what we're looking forward to, what we're worried about, and just kind of have a talk about it, because that's good. It's good to talk about mental health, and that's why we do Mental Mondays and have been doing them since 2018 for that exact reason, because talking about mental health is good, and that's what we're here to do. So, as always, you can reach me out after the show. I've already said that. So there we go. That is it. That is the intro out the way, and now we can get straight into today's show, and I'll kick off with the usual question, which is, how are you? How are you doing? How have your last 2 weeks been? Do let me know in the chat or on Twitter or Instagram, which I am currently checking. So yeah, do let me know. How's it been for you? It's been alright for me, actually. I've been doing a lot of work as usual, because I work a lot. So that's been fun. I've been playing a few games. New season of Fortnite, which I still play because I am, yes. I have the kind of gaming maturity of a 5-year-old still, especially with like rage quitting and that. So, yeah, the gaming side is completely different to kind of this, I guess, my normal life. It's kind of my space to chill and just be kind of absent-minded for a bit, because I have a lot going through my head. Which if you're autistic, you may know it's very difficult to switch off. We often have grasshopper minds. So actually, being able to switch off and just, run around a field shooting people for a few hours is, it's relaxing, which is nice. And yeah, as I said 2 weeks ago, I have been trying to enforce my kind of free time, because I've literally, you can go back and watch this, but I always start with this question. The thing I say always is, I was working, and that kind of gets too much, and eventually you do have to kind of rein that in a bit and say, right, this is too much, that you have to stop here and actually, enjoy life and be, just do nothing for a bit, just be present, I guess. So that's been fun. So yeah, that's how I've been. Bit of work, bit of gaming, and not much in between, really. Still shielding until the second dose of the vaccine comes, and then it is freedom, hopefully. So looking forward to that, actually. I thought I'd be a little nervous about it, and I did say that I had some anxiety about it, rather, 2 weeks ago. But I think we're kind of getting into it now, and looking forward to it, which will be good. So that leads us nicely into talking about lockdown and easing and getting back to normal, because there is a lot of, well, the argument has always been, especially from those that don't like lockdowns, that like the mental health impacts of it, which obviously are very real, because you're shutting your entire social life down to just on a screen and etc. etc. So yeah, but now lockdown is easing, there's also the mental health impacts of that, and everyone's now starting to shift to the mental health crisis we're going to have, how people are going to adapt back to normal. I mean, to be honest, routines as they are, like working from home, will probably stay much longer then lockdown ends, if not become permanent. Like, I've obviously started working from home, and I'm going to continue this indefinitely at the moment, because it's a lot better. But I guess you do have to get out there in the world. It is the world. We've always kind of been in the world, for like, since humans have existed. We've been out in the world. So yeah, definitely, you can see both sides of that. But how are you feeling about it? What are you looking forward to? I'd like to know, actually, because I'm looking forward to actually eating out, to be honest, and going out with the lads, having a drink, that kind of stuff. Just being a normal teenager in that regard, which would be nice to get back to. So yeah, how are you feeling about that? Do let me know. It's probably worth mentioning here as well that a couple of weeks ago it was Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and the blog for that I did write, and it has gone up on the website, which is linked below. And that was all about binge eating disorders and the kind of impacts of that. It's a really interesting read, actually, because binge eating disorders and bulimia, I always get them mixed up, because obviously I've never had an eating disorder, so it's not really something I focus on specifically or know much about, other than like what I read for awareness days. That's kind of pretty much the limitations of my knowledge outside personal experience. And yeah, it's really interesting, like the differences and like how it's often wrongly perceived and like as overindulging, which like it sounds so straightforward because that's effectively what it is, but it's not that at all. And when you see someone doing it, it's very easy to say, oh, they're overindulging, because, well, they are, but they're not doing it because they want to. That's kind of what struck me the most, is that the people don't want to actually eat, but they feel like they have to, so they do. And yeah, it's not something I'll ever fully understand, but it's like, knowing that what you're doing is like harming you, but not being able to stop it. And that must be like really hard for people, and it just made me think about that quite a lot, actually. So I did just want to mention that, because that's something that really stood out to me, and I didn't mention it in the last episode, so I thought I'd do that now, because yeah, it's really difficult for some people. So there we go, that is Eating Disorders Awareness Week out the way. And now, if we've kind of done our intros and done what I wanted to mention, now I'm just going to kind of throw it over to you and what you want to talk about. I'm just kind of going through the socials right now. And what do you want to talk about? I was going to talk about starting a kind of new conversation, because I've been talking to a few new people. And obviously mental health does have to be mentioned at some point, considering, when you're talking to people, and, they're your mates, you do have to kind of talk about mental health, not in, like, a sit-down kind of chat therapy kind of way, which is not really, this is my therapy more than anything else, but just to kind of have an understanding that I am weird and I am different and I may not always respond or do things the way that you'd expect me to, and that's nothing to worry about. I'm fine. I'm just having a moment. I'm just having a low patch of mental health, etc. And the kind of the establishment of that, and how to actually go about that, because that's something that I normally just hope that people who know me are aware of Mental Monday and are aware of, obviously, everything that I do in like for mental health. So hopefully people can it does, especially the Mental Monday, this right now, especially helps to kind of cut out that initial conversation. But if you don't have that, and you're like just someone that, you know, has no mention of mental health anywhere and otherwise looks fine. It's like breaking down that barrier to say, actually, you know, I'm not fine. I might look it and you might not know different, but I am not okay. And that kind of, that moment, that is like the most kind of important thing that I talk about, and actually doing that and breaking that barrier and saying, look, you know, I'm not okay and I just want you to know that. I mean, a lot of the time and a lot of the conversation around it is talking helps. And this is something I wanted to pick up on because so many campaigns, Britain Get Talking from ITV for instance, all about talking. Time to Talk Day from Time to Change, which was on the 4th of February this year. All about talking. And talking is good. And we support talking. We're talking right now, which kind of indicates that I am pro talking, considering this is how I spend my Monday evenings. So we are definitely pro talking, because that really kind of helps share and get out what you're feeling and validates it, and, you know, says you're not alone. What you're going through, you know, other people have experienced similar things. Other people have recovered from what you're going through. Other people have felt better after going through what you're going through. And, you know, you will get to that place of recovery too. And that is something really valuable, to kind of always have in the back of your mind. And that's really helps me a lot as well. But when it comes to talking, there's a lot of feelings that talking is just going to like solve the problem. And that's kind of built up from the fact that we say that talking helps. And it's exactly what we mean by help that really comes down to. Because talking won't fix your problems. You know, talking to your mates, they're not therapists, they're not like going to solve your issues, but they can make a small difference and it all adds up effectively. So instead of just being, you know, you talking to your mates and expecting that to be done, but if you actually you know have some professional help as well, and you have the support of, like, you know, your a wider support network, so like your parents, for example, maybe your school, everyone kind of working together, and then friends really add to that, and they obviously have the most impacts, because having friends that understand you, that support you, that are okay with your weird and wonderful ways, that is validating, and that matters so much. And I've done a few blogs about how to, you know, have those conversations and how to, you know, be the people that are the validators, you know, looking at the other perspective. How, if someone says, I have a mental health issue, how do you respond? Your response matters. And yeah, that is so impactful, but it's not, you know, going to solve everything. So then we kind of make talking into something it's not. We make and then that kind of comes to others saying things like, you know, talking doesn't work, talking doesn't help. Yeah, talk about mental health. We never stop talking about mental health, etc., etc. And yeah, maybe that's because we think talking should be bigger than it is. We think talking should be a big conversation, a big moment. And that first conversation might be. That first conversation you may need to kind of have a sit down, especially if it's with someone intimate, like your partner or your parents again, or whoever, you know, you live with, your roommates. If you have to sit down in those kind of intimate environments and say it, then yes, that conversation probably will be a big thing. But when it comes to like acceptance in your wider social circle. I don't like the kind of the big sit down conversations, and I mention this a lot, that mental health conversations with, you know, mates shouldn't be a sit down and kind of write notes conversation. It should just be something that's not mentioned when it doesn't need to be. And that might sound a bit weird because we're always asked to check in with our mates, and at the start of this episode I always ask, are you okay, how's your last 2 weeks been? But actually I personally prefer mental health just to kind of be there. So if I need to talk, if I need to say something, if I need to get something off my chest, I know the space is open, but I don't have to constantly keep doing it. I can have a normal relationship which isn't impacted by mental health at all, and I can just talk normally, I can have a laugh, I can have a drink, I can play a game, I can, you know, I can live normally in that regard. But if mental health needs to be mentioned, if I feel low, if I need like a bit of help, the space is there and I feel comfortable in asking for it. So that's kind of a decision by me, effectively, to say I'm not going to let mental health define my friendships. I'm going to have friendships as I otherwise would, but make them so mental health is opened up, so that if I do need to talk, the space is there. And that's kind of how I do it. I know that for people that have, say, more severe conditions or kind of worse, trying to phrase this, but for people who that is more difficult for because their mental health is worse, effectively, that might not always be an option. In which case, you know, you may need a few supportive friends around that actually really do kind of help you, and that's something you may need. So there's definitely another side of that. As always, this kind of Mental Monday is only ever from personal experience, that of mine, and the kind of what I've been through, how I approach mental health, how I approach my life with, you know, mental illness. But yeah, I from a point of recovery, I can say that mental health doesn't define me, and it doesn't define, you know, the friendships I have or the life that I have. I can make decisions based on what I want to do, not because of my mental health, and I'm in a position to do that. But not everyone is. Not everyone has reached that step of recovery yet. So, you know, if you're in the thick of it, it's not going to be that easy. And I totally get that because I was there as well. And, you know, you've just got to do whatever, you know, works for you. And that may be having those kind of very strong mental health support groups and that kind of stuff. But actually, you know, having people around is having good people around, people that actually support you and, you know, care about you, and not people that are toxic, obviously, or people that are kind of doing it for the oh poor you act, because that gets annoying very quickly. People that are like, oh, it's someone with mental health, we should be nice to them and be their friend because it makes them feel good and it makes them feel like they're doing the right thing, but it doesn't really help you. You want people that actually help you, that you feel comfortable with. And, you know, whatever it may be slightly desperate, and you may be feeling desperate, but never just jump onto someone out of desperation. Always just think about the kind of friendships you're building, the people you're hanging around with, and if you are in the thick of it, is that helping your mental health? Yes or no? If no, can you remove that person? If you can't, is there a way of like limiting kind of their interaction to the bare minimum needed. For example, like a work colleague that's a bit toxic, only talking to them at work, maybe not socialising after hours. You know, it may be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you have to prioritise your mental health. There is a point when, you know, you have to balance that, and I'm kind of in this stage now. You have to balance your own mental health with kind of your other responsibilities and my work commitments and, you know, people I have to socialise with in regards to that. You know, I may not always be the nicest people, but it has to be done. And you are in a situation where, you know, you're not always going to be able to walk out of every conversation. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that you're not always going to be able to walk away from every conversation that is toxic. But if you can, you absolutely should. And you should always, you know, prioritise the people that are going to be supportive and give you the space to be you and to talk about your mental health if you're needed. And then eventually you'll hopefully have just a normal friendship like anyone else that's not affected by mental health, but with the kind of extra element of the space to talk about it. And, you know, we all need to talk about mental health, and every friendship has that element in it, whether someone has a mental illness or not, because, you know, we all say, how are you? Oh, I've had a rough day, etc. We all have those conversations, but it's just that with mental health, we might need a bit more of a conversation. We might need to just vent, or just to kind of say that we're feeling low, but yeah, we might need a more deeper conversation. And because of that, I call them mental health conversations, but they are just normal conversations that everyone has, and we should all be having those conversations, whether we've got a mental illness or not, because we all have a mental health, and, you know, we all have to look after that. And it's, you know, it could happen to anyone. You know, something could happen in your life, and you might not feel good, and you might need to talk to someone about that. And hopefully, the space is there for you to do that. And that's something I really wanted to get out. And that wasn't what I intended to say, or the kind of road I wanted to go down. But that's kind of what I wanted to roughly just get off my chest, really. Because mental health conversations are, difficult to describe, as it's taken me about 20 minutes to say all that. So, thanks for listening. Wonder what your thoughts on that would be. And also, do let me know on Twitter or Instagram if you do want to send me a message. I should probably check those again, actually, shouldn't I? That would be a good thing. But yeah, do let me know. In the meantime, we are going to talk about Mental Health Awareness Week, just to finish up. It is coming again in May, Mental Health Awareness Week 2021, and we may remember that last year the theme was kindness, and all about how to be kind to others and how that actually helps your mental health too, but, you know, also remembering your own mental health, which also kind of relates to the mental health conversation point I was just talking about, because when you're listening to people talking about their mental health, you've got to remember your own mental health, and especially kind of mental health advocates and that. I obviously get messages from people, and that's fine, because I can take that and I want to take that, and that's why I open myself up to it. But if you're not in a place to do that, you can take a step back, and I'd absolutely say, you know, you can't always have those DMs open for people. You know, sometimes you've got to prioritise yourself, and there are people that I do have to, you know, say, you know, I can't talk to you right now. I'm not in a good place, and you do get back to them in a few days, and then I'm in a better place, and I do talk to them. So it happens to me, it happens to us all. We can't always be there for other people when we need to be there for ourselves as well. So it's just about finding that balance, and the balance that works for you. and a way of managing your own mental health with, what you want to do. If you're a mental health advocate and you want to help others, but managing your own kind of yourself first, and that's really important. So that was something that was mentioned, and it was all about how to be kind to others and ideas for kindness, and just really nice theme. It was going to be sleep, but they changed it, and I think it's a much better theme considering the kind of pandemic and the community spirits we were all talking about in the first lockdown, which seems to have died of death now. But definitely that is worth mentioning. So the theme for this week is nature. Any ideas? I am now taking suggestions. I have no idea what to do for it. But obviously nature is something I've talked about a lot. I've previously recorded a video outside for Ordnance Survey and their campaign, which may have been 2018 or it might have been 2018 actually. I can't remember, but I know I've done that. And then there was also the Samaritans fundraiser we did in 2019, where we ran a marathon in a month, which was fun. I do like running. Don't do much of it, but I do like it when I do it. And yeah, so what could we do for nature? Sensible suggestions. We're not going to go naturalist, but if you do have anything you want to share, anything we could do for that theme, that would be really good to tell me, because I would really need ideas, because I am I'm out of ideas of how to do it, because for the last 2 or 3 years now, what we've done is we have taken Mental Health Awareness Week and we have done a blog talking about my own thoughts on it, a blog talking about the Mental Health Foundation, who obviously run MHOW, their thoughts on it, their statistics, breaking that down into an easy to read format that's more digestible, say for my audience, than actually reading a 60-page PDF. So I read the PDF and then put it into some nice one-page bullet points. And then I kind of round up of the blogs and the content that's being produced. That's normally what we do, and that's what we've kind of done every MHOW. But do we want to do something different? And we also do kind of Mental Mondays as well, where we talk about the theme throughout the week. Do we want to do something different? Do we want to mix it up a bit? What do we want to do? Any ideas that I haven't done before, hasn't been seen, well, it probably has been seen before on another channel, but hasn't been seen before on Mental Monday, would be really good. Let me know. You can also drop me an email, jake@jakesymons.com, spelled as my channel name. If you don't know the spelling, that's me right there. So there we go. Suggestions box now open, and I think that is a good place to end Mental Monday. So it looks like there's nothing more in the chat or via the socials. Nope. So that has it. That is it, rather. Thank you so much for coming. It's really been good, and I've really enjoyed today and talking a lot and no awkward silences. It's just been pure kind of, this is a thought and I'm going to run with my thought. And I know it was only one thought, but I think it was a well kind of vocalised. But thanks for coming. Really appreciated your company. The next stream will be on the 5th of April, and that will be when Mental Monday, the big friendly conversation about mental health, returns. Until next time, you can reach me on Twitter at JakeSWrites or Instagram Jake_Symons imaginatively, or email jake@jakesymons.com. So there are all the socials. You can also reach me on Snapchat, which is the same as Twitter at JakeSWrites. It may take me a while to get back to you on that because that's not something I check regularly. So that's it from me. Thanks so much for coming. Enjoy the next 2 weeks, and I will see you all on the 5th of April for another episode of Mental Monday, the big friendly conversation about mental health with me, Jake Symons.